on. We have a Wild Nakatl, Experiment 1, Goblin Guide, Kurdabe, Grim Lavamancer, Burning Tree Emissary, Tarmogoyf, Thalia, Gore-Clan Rampager, Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning. This is really close to a modern legal deck.
This is, yeah, maybe a modern deck with a better mana base, basically? Huh. Alrighty then. Take a look at the board that McDonough does have. He's got a Burning Tree Emissary, a Kurdabe, a Goblin Guide, an Experiment 1 with looks like 2 counters on it, a Tarmogoyf, a Thalia, and a couple of lands. I think the big problem here is that there's a Batterskull in play, blocking the road.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think the cards in his deck are better than a Batterskull. Even all of this in play.
And in comes everybody. Goblin Guide trigger. Brian's going to spin his top here, make sure he hits a land. And he's also got a Terminus on top of his deck. I think Brian will be mighty fine revealing that. Looks like McDonough is basically all in at this point as well.
Yeah, 1 card left in hand. Brian can easily win this game just by looping his Batterskull through Stoneforge, or even just putting it back to his hand and hard casting it.
Yeah, for Brian, he's got the Batterskull in play along with the Stoneforge Mystic, a Sensei's Divining Top. He's obviously spinning right now. To go along with the Plains, an Island, a Tundra, and a Flooded Strand. Couple of cards in grip here for BBD. And looks like he says, you know what, I'm going to reveal Terminus with a bit of a sly grin on his face. And now he's going to draw a card with top. He will Terminus. Got to pay 1 more for the Thalia, which he does. And all those creatures are going to go to the bottom of the deck. Brian's will as well, but he doesn't seem to mind because Batterskull's going to be hanging around.
Ryan McDonough over here playing Zoo. I mean, this is the first time I've seen this deck in, honestly, years.
Feels like 2 years.
Yeah, and he's 6-0 right now. I mean, still, even with a loss here, not to, you know, call the match already here. Things are looking grim, in fairness. Still with the potential of making a top 8 of this tournament.
Yeah, we've not seen Zoo decks in some time. This is going to be a replacement Thalia. That'll put McDonough all in. No cards left. Braun-Duin going to untap, take a draw. It is Sensei's Divining Top. It also does have a copy of Council's Judgment in hand, but he'd have to pay 4 mana for that. So Brian going to begin, it looks like maybe sacrificing the Flooded Strand, and he will, down to a very healthy 21.
Yeah, it looks like there's some batters. Feels like there's been some Batterskull shots in this game.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps that is what has taken place here.
Source to Plowshares also in Brian's hand. I mean, it feels like just a matter of time. If Brian's able to find something like an Ancient Grudge or something like that in his sideboard, maybe he can keep playing, but otherwise he's going to be really hard-pressed to beat this Batterskull.
Yeah, McDonough's deck is, as you said, it's basically a modern legal deck. 4 Nakatl, 4 Experiment 1, 4 Goblin Guide, 3 Kurdabe, a couple copies of Grim Lavamancer, 4 Burning Tree Emissary, Tarmogoyf, Thalia, 3 copies of Gore-Clan Rampager. You throw in 4 Bolts and 4 Chain Lightnings, 20 lands, better mana base, of course, you're good to go.
Yeah, it's basically just Chain Lightning and the dual lands. That's it.
An island, there's a top. Only have to pay 1 now that Thalia is gone. McDonough will draw a card. In for 3 with the kitty cat.
Yes!
Yep, down to 18.
It's been so long. It's just cathartic watching it, you know?
Batterskull wants to go back to the hand, perhaps, and it will.
A noble beast.
You see an attack here from the noble beast. Put BBD down to 18. A spinning of the top by Brian. Looks like he may have found a counterbalance to make things really tough here on McDonough. And now he's going to put the 1-2 punch in play.
Yeah.
But wait. Another attack here from 3.
Come on. Yes.
Yep. Down to 15. Just BBD. Kurdabe here in McDonough's hand. Can't really cast that in the jaws of this lock.
It's a sad day for Kurdabe.
It is. It is. Just stuck in the hand, not in the field of play.
The forests are so much more hostile than when he was just hanging out in Arabian Nights world, you know? The worst thing that could happen to him back then is Oubliette, maybe. Maybe, you know, get outclassed by a Serendipity Freak. Now this.
Stoneforge Mystic, gonna go search up another copy of Batterskull. Brian with 1 in his main, 1 in his board, as usual. A strategy he loves to employ.
Gives him insurance, you know. Now he can. Now Ancient Grudge still creates some headaches for Brian, but he does have a little more flexibility here. He doesn't have to worry so much about his Batterskull getting destroyed.
Donna will take a draw. We know he's got a Kurdabe that he can't cast. Looks like maybe a Thalia has shown up. Attacking with Nakatl certainly safe. And Brian says, I'm going to spin top right before that, just to make sure everything's okay. Looking at a Force of Will, another Sensei's Divining Top, and a Flooded Strand.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was the point where Brian said enough and plowed it. I guess he's going to take one more hit here, but...
Yeah, his total's so high, he's not really in fear of anything. There's the ape. Here's the top revealing a top. So that's going to take care of that. Here's Thalia post combat. Brian going to look at the hand. Look at boot 2 batter skulls, among other things. They have swords as well. Probably just fine with that resolving.
Yeah, he can cast. He can still cast the sword through Thalia and the Stoneforge in the batter skull. So no real rush to deal anything with this.
Thalia's in play. Brian's going to untap. You saw him rearrange the deck because he does want to draw the Flooded Strand, so that's what he will draw for his turn. Going to put that into play. 6 lands out there for Brian. If he wanted to hard cast the batter skull, he certainly could, but Stoneforge Mystic probably makes that a little bit easier.
And now with 2 lands in Ryan's hand, it appears that he is doomed.
Well, these hyper-aggressive decks have had so much success this weekend. This is the one hiccup, I suppose.
Well, his mistake was adding white and green mana.
Ah, I see. I see. His batter skull is going to come in here. Living Weapon Trigger will put BBD on there. It will spin the top. Take a look. There's a top. There is a forest, and the new card is a Tundra. So Tundra's going to go on top, as Brian does want to draw that. So the draw step will be a Tundra here, maybe, but he says, actually, I'd like to fetch and see exactly what I can find with a new set of cards.
Yeah, the top of his deck is pretty low impact at this point, so and unlikely to be able to lock anything with the divining top. So I like getting a fresh look here.
So Brian, we'll see if he wants to spin on his upkeep or not to try to manipulate his draw, or if he just wants to take any card. He says, I'll just take any card right now. Looks like it's another copy of Stoneforge Mystic. In comes Batter Skull. Gonna put McDonough down to 5. Braun-Duin up to 15. And he'll just pass the turn back with the ability to put another Batter Skull into play. McDonough draws his card for the turn. He's going to play a Burning Tree Emissary. Brian going to spin this, see if he can get the free counter. Force of Will, Council Judgment is what Brian is looking at here. So he will move those cards around, figure out what card he wants to draw for the turn. I'm not too scared of a 2-2.
Yeah, I imagine it's just Force of Will. He's got the 6 mana in play, so, you know, he can play 4 Force of Will through Thalia. That combined with the 2 Batter Skulls, I'm sure should be enough to lock this one up.
Yeah. It's time to put in a second Batter Skull. So 2 4/4 Vigilance Lifelinkers in play. Brian gonna draw a card here. Force of Will basically puts the lock on this as I make sure that no nonsense does happen. Both of those are gonna come in for an attack, and McDonough is gonna be forced to do some blocking here. So there goes Burning Tree Emissary. McDonough gonna go down to 1. Brian gonna gain 8, go up to 23. And Brian says, you know, I think maybe it's time to cast another Stoneforge.
I would just sit, I think.
Yeah, and he says, yeah, that's good enough. Just say go. Take a draw. Chain Lightning is what McDonough has found. Unfortunately for him, top plus counterbalance being in play means that's not going to resolve. Doesn't even take into account the Force Will that's out there. So there's a forest. McDonough, maybe a last-ditch effort. It's like, nope, just going to pass the turn back. Brian will draw a copy of Force of Will, send everybody in, and Stoneforge Mystic will allow that last point of damage to get through. McDonough says, I'll do it my way, thank you. Sacrifice the Arid Mesa. Brian Braun-Duin is going to win this match over Ryan McDonough. 2-1. Blue-White Miracles takes down Naya Blitz, and BBD moves on to 7-0.
I mean, just a really, really cool to see Naya back in the Legacy Tournament a little bit. A deck that